Hello one and all, this is Fab Brothers. I'm Tommy with Collision Point here to talk about Welcome to Rathe draft preparation for these farewell events coming up this weekend. Let's go ahead and dive in. So in this video, you can see this overview here. I don't have a good camera, so you're going to see cartoon me interacting in this video along with a little slide deck I prepared. The slides and some additional notes will be on the Collision Point blog. That's a website that I run. But you can find this video forever on Flesh and Blood Brothers on YouTube. So here's the overview. We're going to have dive into the pack configuration from Welcome to Rathe. So we're going to look at how many of each card you can expect to see in each pack, and take a quick look at some of the generics. Then we're going to hit a general draft strategy and talk about some resources where you can practice draft before this weekend. Then we're going to talk about when to dump that strategy and do something completely different, and that's going to be okay. Then we'll look at each of the individual heroes, our brute hero Rynar, our guardian Bravo, our ninja Katsu, and our warrior Dorinthia, to really kind of get a feel for what each of these heroes can do in draft. Just in case you didn't get into the game until late Monarch or with Tales of Aria, you may not have experienced these particular heroes too much. But Welcome to Rathe is a beautiful set to play Limited in. I've only played Limited, the first time I played Limited with Welcome to Rathe was at Vegas. I joined a little sealed Welcome to Rathe side event, and I had a blast. I was Bravo. It was after I went, I think, like 5-2 or 5-2-1, something like that, in Swiss at the Vegas premiere with Bravo. And so making a sealed deck with Bravo and getting a few wins with him there was really a lot of fun. So first things first, let's look at the pack configuration. So not listed in these bullet points is the token card that you'll receive in each of these packs. So there are 15 card booster packs plus one token. That token is shared with your entire 8-person draft pod. In case you haven't drafted before, I'm sure there will be plenty of people around you who have, and they'll get you in the swing of things. So in each pack, you're going to have an equipment card, 4 generic commons, 7 class commons, 1 rare plus slot, which means it could be a rare, a super rare, or a majestic, and then 1 foil card, which could be of any rarity. So you're going to open up your first pack, you're going to pick your first card, and then you're going to pass. So once you start passing packs, you need to ask yourself some questions. What's already been taken? Is the equipment piece gone? What are the reds that are left? How many rares are left? How many generics remain? If you see that there's only 1 rare in your pack, then the person that passed you the pack has taken it. Or once you get your second or third pass, you're going to start to see, okay, if all the generics are gone, then a lot of people are trying to stay open, so then you need to pick maybe the best class card available or the equipment piece. So as you get into picks 5, 6, and 7, there's probably not going to be any generics left. And so you might need to start evaluating the best class cards to take to start putting yourself in a position to take one of the heroes for the draft itself. All right, now let's look at some of the generics. Obviously, if you see a majestic like Enlightened Strike, that's an instant pick. No matter what hero you think you're going to end up playing, a card like Enlightened Strike is going to be well received in your deck. Snapdragon Scalers as an equipment piece is going to be worthwhile to take with pretty much every hero. Now, you can only use it once for the entire game, so even if you're playing a tall strategy deck with a Bravo or a Rynar, you're probably going to end up with a hand where you have something like a Wounding Blow or a Snatch or a Scar for a Scar that you could play, use Snapdragon Scalers to have go again, and then come in and swing with your weapon. That's just going to add the amount of damage output that you do that turn, and it could really help you swing some momentum to either force cards out of the hand of your opponent to block, or to really leak some damage through with some go wide overlap. You can see in the top right and top left I have red Snatch. If you see a red or yellow Snatch, you're probably going to take it. It's a great card. You can draw off the hit. It's usually going to bait a block. It's really worthwhile, especially in red, but I think yellow is very draftable in this limited environment. Red Sink Below, in most cases, also an instant take. The ability to cycle through your hand when you haven't fully constructed this deck is going to be very valuable. In red and yellow, the defense value is great, of course, red obviously being better, but even drafting a blue sink below when there's just a few cards left in a pack can be worthwhile. It can really help you pitch for paying for weapons or attack actions, but it can also, let's say you end up as Katsu, it can be a great pitch card for your Kodachis. Maybe you see it late game and you can cycle through your hand to get a last remaining combo line that you have. Speaking of late game, here's two super rares, Remembrance and Last Ditch Effort. Now, if you are really good at pitch stacking, if you're comfortable with that, Last Ditch Effort could be a great card for you to have as some security for the late game. It's also a blue, so you're probably going to pitch it the first time you see it, and then late game it could really come in as a nice attack to help seal things off. Remembrance is what you might want to pick up if you're not good at pitch stacking. That way, mid-game, late game, you can activate Remembrance as an instant from your hand and just bring 3 cards from your graveyard back into your deck. They have to be action cards, but you get to shuffle your deck. You don't always get to do that, especially in Welcome to Rathe. There's not a lot of ways for you to actually get a shuffle in your deck. So you don't have to worry about your pitch deck all that much. It's kind of a security blanket for a player like that, and it's also a great way to get some power cards back into your deck. If you only have a few really solid red attacks, it's a great way to bring them back in. If you're lucky enough to get an Lightning Strike, being able to use Remembrance to get it back into your deck, to use it twice, can really help seal a lot of these draft games. Now everything on the right-hand side is going to be 2 possible strategies or lines of play with your generics. The first is the go tall strategy with Pummel and cards like Raging Onslaught. Also in this stack are like Slogism and blanking on the Wounded Warrior card that's cost 3. It does extra damage if you're lower on health than your opponent. But all of these cards are going to be higher cost, high damage. And cards like Pummel are going to be really good, especially for Rynar and Bravo, because they can use Pummel on their weapon. But any of the heroes can access these generics and do well with them. Even with Akatsu or Dorinthia, a lot of times you're going to have go again. So at the end of the chain, after some weapon swings, you can ditch a blue and come in with a big attack like Raging Onslaught to try to push some damage. And then all the way to the right, we have the go wide strategy with cards like Razor Reflex and Flock of the Featherwalkers that can help you get go again. With go again, you can go extra wide, sending a lot of attacks at your opponent, and Razor Reflex is going to be one of the best cards to draft to really push some damage through or give some of your smaller attacks go again, like a Snatch. You can give it go again with Razor Reflex to be able to really utilize the card draw. All right, so strategy and resources. Everybody's going to tell you remain open early. 99% of the time, maybe 85% of the time, that's the way to go. I'm going to talk about not remaining open. If your first pack you see a Majestic or a class rare and you just decide, I want that card, I want to play this hero, then you selecting that card is going to start sending signals down your draft pod. If people notice one direction of you that they don't have any warrior cards because you're picking all of them, then that's going to tell them not to draft warrior because they're not going to have the resources to draft to have a good deck. And so by staking your claim early, you can be the one sending the signals to really stake your claim. Could it backfire? Of course. When you get to your second and third pack, you might be out of options for the class that you've kind of gone after. But it is an option. Don't be afraid to do this in your draft. Ultimately, this is going to be a fun event. You're also going to look at red generic attacks. Those are going to be instant adds to almost any hero's deck in a Welcome to Rathe draft. You also want to talk about, or think about rather, your go wide strategy or your go tall strategy. Are you looking more for those pummels, or are you looking more for the Razor Reflexes? The 1 to 0 cost attacks or the 2 or 3 cost attacks, for example. And of course, be a turncoat if necessary. If you start drafting Katsu early, but then you start getting signals that there's a lot of Katsus at the table, you might need to change so you can get a stronger deck rather than end up with a bunch of generics. Of course, be selective with class cards, especially early on in the pack. Some class commons are going to be better generally than others, and it really depends on what the hero is trying to do. So somebody like Dorinthia, for example, any class common that can give you go again on your weapon is going to be very valuable, or any attack reaction with reprise is going to be really valuable. So take a look at those, be selective. Of course, for resources, you can practice on fleshandblood.com or fabdb.net. At the end of this video, I'm going to show you a practice run on fleshandblood.com. And of course, check out other draft guides on YouTube, other articles throughout the internet, and podcasts. I'll link some resources in the description of this video and on my blog post on Collision Point. So when to class early and when to swap. So if you see any of these cards, that could be your clue that that's the hero that you need to play in this draft. Alpha Rampage, a great way to get sometimes a double intimidate and push a ton of damage through to your opponent, either to kind of get a big life lead, to swing tempo for the game, or to seal the game at the end and defeat your opponent. Barraging Beatdown, also a fantastic card in this environment to really pump up your attack and force your opponent to block or take extra damage. And of course it has Intimidate and it's free. For Bravo, if you see one of the Majestics, that's really going to improve the consistency of your Bravo deck in this format. Otherwise, you're really looking at a ton of blues, a lot of Anothos swings, and maybe setting up for a big dominated attack once or twice a game. Both Crippling Clutch or Spinal Crush, you're really going to be able to dictate more of the game's outcome to your opponent. With Katsu, familiarize yourself with some of the combo lines, with some of the options of just going more with generics. But obviously, if you see any of these characters, legendaries, that's going to be a big clue as to what you should be playing. Mask of Momentum is something you're probably not going to see. That if you've played Ninja before, it's something that your deck probably relied on for consistency. And so you're going to have to look at your draft pool for ways that you can still go wide and have enough damage output to keep up with the other heroes. Majestic, like Ancestral Empowerment, is really going to help with that. It's free. It's going to add +1 to a ninja attack, so it could give it a threshold to hit and gain go again, or to activate Mask. Of course, if you have it, you probably won't, but it lets you draw a card as well. So if you're already sitting with go again, you pop Ancestral Empowerment from your hand, gain another card to either arsenal or send another attack at your opponent. And of course, with Dorinthia, Singing Steelblade as a super rare is going to be extremely valuable to search your deck for an attack reaction to put into your hand to really seal out a game and punish your opponent. A rare like Red Warrior's Valor is going to be really helpful as well. Only costs 1. It's going to pump your next weapon attack, and if the attack hits, it gains go again. So it's a great card to try to bait some blocks from your opponent so you can really unload attack reactions out of your hand, or simply deal damage and gain go again to try to get a counter on the Dawnblade. So that's general overview. Now let's get into specifics with each class. For Rynar, you're looking for any attack with a value of 6 or higher. These are going to be great because if you discard those with various effects, you are going to proc Rynar to intimidate a card out of your opponent's hand. Of course, they'll get that card back at the end of the phase, but it means they can't block with it, which is great. Unlike most of the other heroes, Reiner is going to want to stack his deck with a lot of yellow pitch cards. He's going to also be using a lot of non-attack actions, most likely for most draft builds. Things like Barraging Beatdown. We talked about it earlier. It's a rare slot. In a lot of my practice drafts, I usually ended up keying into Rynar once I started seeing Barraging Beatdowns. The other important note, maybe I should have said this earlier, but in any limited format for Flesh and Blood, there's no restrictions on the number of cards of a certain type or a certain pitch value or anything no limit. So if I see 5 yellow barraging beatdowns, I can play all of those in my draft deck. It's not likely, it's a rare card, but there's going to be some class commons or even generic commons that you're going to see a lot. And if you want that for your deck, you can grab them. You can play 6 yellow Scarfish cards in your deck if you want to. It's going to be a pretty consistent card for you to throw out that game. And of course for Rynar, another key benefit is his weapon. The Romping Club is very efficient. If you have been discarding cards with attack value of 6 or higher, it's going to get a little +1 bonus to it. And it's great to just swing in with your Romping Club. Sometimes you can buff it with a non-attack action, but it's a very efficient way to continue leaking damage at your opponent with that attack value of 4 breakpoint. Looking at Bravo, he's probably easy to draft, most likely, in your pod because you're going to be past a lot of blues early on with everybody else picking the reds and maybe the Reiner player picking the yellows. So you can really scoop up a lot of valuable blue pitch cards to really build out a consistent deck. Every gardening card is going to be expensive. Cartilage Crush here is relatively cheap. It only costs 3. In the red, it can attack for 7. Has a pretty good crush effect. But you're going to need blue cards to pay for this. Of course, there's going to be some auras you're going to include. You're going to want a couple pummels in the deck as well to be able to go over the top and really punish your opponent in the attack reaction phase. And of course, you can use Bravo's ability to dominate any attack of cost 2 or higher, and that can really lead to a nice finishing blow. So Bravo's probably going to be really good at ending the game. He just has to be consistent enough throughout to be in the game late game. And to have enough resources in hand, probably taking an entire turn's worth of attacks without blocking to really play out a full dominate strategy with a slogism or a pummel to finish off the opponent. Of course, Bravo is also going to be very defensive. Like most classes in Welcome to Rathe, a lot of his class cards are going to defend for 3. He's also going to probably look at some defense reactions, whether that's a Sink Below or staunch responses, maybe even one Unbreakable or 2, especially in blue would be really nice for him. He can really be defensive and stay in the game in that way. For Katsu, of course, it starts with Kodachis. You're going to probably throw 1 to 2 of them every single turn with a zero-cost pitch or a zero-cost card of any pitch value to really get consistent damage that your opponent's not going to want to block, especially early on. You can always use a Razor Reflex to take the damage over the top as well. And you're going to see some combo lines, whether that's the head jab combo line or kicks and knee thrusts and blackout kicks. You're going to see some combo lines to really look at. Of course, there's Surging Strike and Whelming Gust Wave as well. That's pretty common in the constructed format. But it really is going to depend on what you see. Most likely, on most turns, you're going to do Kodachi, swing with an attack. You might have enough resources for a 4th chain link, but you're also going to want to possibly go defensive. Drafting the Flick Flacks, drafting the Sink Belows to either prevent your opponent from going wide or to have enough resources to go wide yourself and arsenal these defense reactions, which are going to be very key for going up against Dorinthia. So Dorinthia, all about Dawnblade. Accessing Go Again with a card like Driving Blade, shown here as a common, is going to be huge. Now, whenever I draft Dorinthia, I'm looking at drafting as many Driving Blades as I possibly can. Usually I end up leaning towards Dorinthia when I start to see Driving Blades in my packs, whether that's maybe not pack one, pick one, but when I start thinking about drafting class cards, if I see a Driving Blade, I'm going Dorinthia. If I see a Barraging Beatdown, I'm probably going Rynar. These are key cards for me that you're likely to see that are kind of instant class choices, at least for me. So gaining Go Again is great. Don't always feel like you have to swing with the Dawnblade twice, especially in this format. You can always swing Dawnblade once. If it has Go Again, come in with a generic attack to really just try to push some damage through. If you can get a counter on Dawnblade, awesome. That's going to help you win games. With the keyword Reprise, a lot of your attack reactions are going to really come in and punish your opponent for blocking. If they haven't played a lot against Dorinthia, if you're pretty familiar with the hero, you can really outsmart your opponent with some bluffs and some tactics to punish them when they do block from hand, or get them to commit too many blocks from hand and then just save your cards for the next round. They're not going to be able to do much if they're committing too much on defense. I already kind of talked about end of the chain. Don't be afraid to throw a generic attack instead of your second Dawnblade swing. Of course, if you do end up with Dorinthia, you're really going to want to look at equipment. Get as many iron rods as you can. Get those warrior boots to go again on a weapon attack, and really deck her out in some equipment, because you're going to want to keep a lot of cards in your hand for offense. And so having some equipment to prevent some damage on a key turn is going to be crucial for her. Now, let's go check out fleshandblood.com for a practice draft. All right, welcome to fleshandbloodonline.com. You're going to cycle over here to the Welcome to Rathe solo draft practice. Give that a little click. And as you can see, you're going to be drafting against the AI. This is pack 1, pick 1. Immediately you're going to see we have the 4 generic commons, the equipment piece, the 7 class commons, and then our your rares are going to come before your 7 class commons. So our 2 rares this pack are Flusterfist Yellow and Snatch Yellow, followed by what would be the foil Biting Blade, and then 7 class commons for the rest there. So pack 1, pick 1, I'm immediately looking at the Iron Rot legs. Not a bad choice there. The only other thing that's really jumping out to me is Yellow Snatch. But I think I'll let somebody else snag that, and I'm just going to grab those boots. Alright, so next pack, you can immediately see the rares. We have blue Barraging Beatdown, red Blessing of Deliverance. As a Bravo player, that looks tasty to me. You'll hear from some other creators that red Immovable, a little bit of a trap card in draft. You're going to very rarely have like a blue pitch to get rid of on defense for that. It would be great in some matchups, but otherwise kind of a costly card to try to dump out of your hand, or it could just end up sitting in Arsenal for a very long time. I think for right now, I'm going to try to remain open a little bit longer. So I think I'm going to end up taking possibly that blue Flock or Demolition Crew red. I think I'll snag that Demolition Crew red. So it's probably a card you've never played before unless you've played some Welcome to Rathe Limited. So as you can read it here, as an additional cost, you reveal a card from your hand with cost 2 or greater. The card itself costs 2, but it has Dominate and it's coming in for 6. Only blocks for 2, as is the case for most generics. But I'm going to go ahead and snag that red. Alright, now this pack's a little bit more interesting. We can see here we have a red Nimbilism. Possibly that was the foil slot. Yeah, it would have been the foil slot there. We have a blue Steelblade Shunt, definitely not worth taking in that rare slot. We have some very interesting generics left. Yellow Razor Reflex and a yellow Pummel. Since I've already drafted one thing that's pummelable, I think I'm going to snag the yellow Pummel. Alright, now we have some key cards here. Let's see. Yellow Driving Blade is looking really nice to me. I kind of want to take it to go Warrior, or I could just snag another Pummel and stay open. I could snag another Demolition Crew and stay open. So I think for right now I will stay open on pick 4 and pick up another Pummel. Alright, pick 5. Let's see what we have here. With some Pummels, I am kind of leaning Rynar. I've had the most fun drafting with Rynar. Excuse me. So to stay Rynar here, it's going to be red Awakening Bellow. This particular one only buffs brute attack action cards, but it does have an Intimidate. It does cost 1. So I'm going to grab the red one here. Alright, thinking Rynar now, we're looking at more attacks for power 6 or higher, or something like this, a Primeval Bellow. Now it costs 0, but you have to discard a random card from your hand, and it gives your next brute attack this turn plus 5. So this works with the Romping Club. That's an instant take for me, drafting Rynar here. This is perfect. A yellow Wrecker Romp. Blue Wrecker Romp. It already is a 6 attack, and it's blue. That's an instant take. All right. Thinking Rynar still. We see some blue Smash Instincts. Not super great. Not a lot of other options for us. We don't really want that Scour. Let's see. We could hate draft the Flusterfist. That's not a bad idea, but I think I'll go Smash Instinct here. Okay. Yellow Smash Instinct. Love this one. It's a yellow, which is great. It does cost 3. Has built-in Intimidate, though, so I'm going to grab that yellow Smash. All right. Non-attack action. Primeval Bellow in yellow. Love to see it. Let's go. All right. So no Rynar cards here available, but we do have a yellow Regurgitating Slog. I don't love that, but let's snag it. All right. Nothing really valuable for me to take here. We could grab the Demolition Crew for a Dominate attack. I think I'm going to hate draft that Driving Blade. I don't want to see it against me, so I'm going to take it. Here, I will go ahead and take a yellow Slog again. At Breakneck Battery at blue at rare. Not a bad way to get go again, to have a go wide turn. It's going to be a pitch card early in the game, maybe the entire game. All right, only pick left for pick 15. All right, pack 2. We see some Breaking Scales. We see the Red Pommel, but we got to get the Blood Rush Bellow. I very rarely see Majestics in my practice drafts. Happy to see one here when we're recording. So I am going to snag Blood Rush Bellow. All right, nice. Let's go ahead and grab our equipment piece. It's going to give us a free block, so it's kind of like the Iron Rot chest piece in this case, and also the instant ability is going to give us something kind of like our cross straps. So it's kind of best of both worlds there. It's a Rynar equipment. Let's go ahead and grab it. All right, pick 3, pack 2. I'm looking at Primeval Bellow. I'm looking at Blue Wrecker Romp. Let's see. I think I'll take Primeval Bellow because doing this, discarding a card, coming in with Romping Club for 9 to 10 is just too powerful for this format. Gotta go Primeval Bellow. All right, looking. We can go Breakneck Battery Yellow here or Awakening Bellow. I'm leaning towards Awakening Bellow in red. Let's take it. All right. I see a blue Breakneck Battery. I see a blue Savage Swing. I see that red Demolition Crew. Let's go ahead and go with Demolition Crew. It's a red. It's a 6 attack. Not great for pitching, but great for discarding. All right. I'm looking at you. Wrecker Romp Yellow. Let's go. Primeval Yellow. Let's go. Blue Savage Swing, why not? Probably going to pitch with it. Love to see a Warrior's Valor for you Warrior players. I guess we're just going to go Demolition Crew again. Let's go. I very rarely draft those, but when they're there, they're there. Yellow Awakening Bellow. Blue Wrecker Romp is perfect. That's a return there. Yellow Breakneck Battery. Blue Breakneck Battery. We'll grab the rarer card here, the Blackout Kick. And a Buckling Blow. All right, third pack. We already have Iron Knot Legs. Don't need those. Don't really care to draft a blue Sink Below. We could go yellow Barraging Brawnhide here or the red Savage Swing. I think I'm going Savage Swing because of the low cost. There's actually 2 in this pack, so we might see the other one come back around to us. Next up. All right. We could go blue Savage Swing here or take Demolition Crew. I am going to take Demolition Crew, just hoping to discard it and get an Intimidate trigger off of it. Yellow Smash Instinct is an instant take for me. Let's see, Wrecker Romp or Savage Beast in red. Let's go Savage Beast. Excuse me. All right, Primeval Bellow in red again. Take. Pack Hunt yellow. Love Pack Hunt in this format. A free Intimidate is great. Or Savage Swing. I'll go with yellow here. Rynar loves yellows. There's another one. We'll take it. Another red Awakening Bellow. This is going to be a Romping Club deck for sure. All right, yellow Barraging Brawnhide at 6 attack. I'll take that blue Savage Swing for pitch. I'll take another yellow Barraging Brawnhide. Here, nothing for Rynar. I could take the blue Nimble Strike as a pitch card, but I think I'll leave it. And instead, let's go ahead and take Open the Center. And blue Pummel, yes sir. Red Savage Swing, and a red Rising Knee Thrust. All right, so this is a great part about this website. Is now I can look at the deck itself. I would love it if you could export this to then test with it on felttable.com or something else. But let's just click on Rynar and test draft pool. Now it's going to just set you up against what they call a practice dummy. You'll see that in a second. But you can see here I've drafted 2 pieces of equipment. Unfortunately, in this little test, the equipment will be unavailable for my use, so I'm not going to be able to gain those resources. There won't be any need to block. The opponent doesn't attack, but now I can see my deck. So do I really want to bring in all of the available cards to my deck? I can go down to 30 if I want to. It's going to automatically take out any of the Ninja or Guardian or Warrior cards that I drafted. It's just going to show me generics and Brute cards. So, do I want to take in all of those generics? That's a good question for deck building. Maybe not fully pertinent to this video, but let's get a quick blue count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 blues. That's pretty low. So I think I'll scoot out a couple generics here. Let's see. I'll keep the ones that deal 6, which might be all the ones that I got. You know what? Let's just roll with this deck. So here's what I've been doing when I've been practicing draft here, is I'll go into the match with Rynar. I want to go first, so that's what I'll select. You can see my health total is correct. Their health total is 1,000. Now, usually I'll play out some turns, and then if I decide I like the deck, I'll just keep playing it out. And my goal with playing out the deck is to see, can I do 100 or more damage just by playing through my deck? Now, I might have a few cards left at the end. I could just keep pitching Romping Club forever. I'm not going to do that. How much damage can I deal with just going through my deck? So let's check it out. I have 2 Bellows in hand, Primeval and Awakening. That's great. Let's see. 2 cards that aren't going to trigger an Intimidate. So let's just play Primeval Bellow. Doesn't matter what I discard. It's going to go through some priority here. Discard the Breakneck Battery. So I'm going to just come in with Romping Club, pitching the Pack Hunt. It's going to come in for 9. That's great damage. Obviously, they're going to need to block with 3 cards to block out, which means they're only going to have 1 card left in hand. They'll probably come in with their weapon attack. It should be an easy block for me. I am going to Arsenal. Oh, this is your pitch zone, so you have Pack on bottom, and I'm going to Arsenal Awakening Bellow. Now, in my testing, I don't really care about picking out what I would block with. Instead, I'm just going to keep playing out offensive turns just to see the offensive capability of the deck. So for this turn, I kind of want to end up playing one of these Demolition Crews or the Wrecker Romp, but let's start with the Awakening Bellow, planning on playing that Wrecker Romp. All right, so if I pitch the yellow Pummel, I'll have 1 resource left over, which means I can play Wrecker Romp here, pitch the other red, and I know I'll be discarding a Demolition Crew red. So you can see here Reiner intimidated. The Intimidate obviously isn't registering here because the opponent doesn't have a hand, but now I've come in 2 turns in a row with a 9-card attack. In the first hand, it took 3 cards. In this hand, it took all 5. That's a low pitch curve on this deck. That's unfortunate. Didn't get a lot of blues and yellows. I ended up with a lot of reds in deck. But coming in with a blue attack for 9 power, that's 18 points of damage in 2 turns that my opponent has to deal with, which means they're blocking a lot for this game. All right, pitch order. We can do that on fleshandblood.com. Next turn, let's go ahead and keep swinging here. All right, so let's go Primeval Bellow for a nice Romping Club turn. All right, we discarded a Wrecker Romp, so we did Intimidate. That's great. That means this Romping Club is coming in for 10, I believe. Yeah, 10. All right, so now we're talking 28 damage over the course of 3 turns. Now, my opponent could be doing just as much damage to me. Probably not, but who knows. But you can see the power of Rynar in draft. If you didn't draft him, be ready to play against him. Here's the pitch order. Let's do one more turn here, and you can see what we have going on. So I like here, I can go Smash Instinct. It's going to give me an instant Intimidate. I can pitch this blue, and I can end up pitching Pack Hunt to play the blue Pummel. So let's go ahead and do that line. All right, pitching 3. There's my Lair. All right, my attack reaction, Pummel. Pitching Pack Hunt. Lair. So now we're dealing 8. On hit, they'll discard a card. So even if they're trying to hold cards for their own offensive turn, Pummel's going to rip another card out of their hand. Of course, I intimidated once. So I have 3 cards in hand. Maybe they have an arsenal, maybe not. So however many cards they went to block with in defense step, then Pummel going to rip a card out of their hand. So hopefully they only have a 1 or 2 card hand for their offensive turn against me, and I'll even get to arsenal a card. Now maybe on their turn I blocked with this last card. Who knows? It does block for 3, of course. But you can see how beneficial this draft practice is. I still have 23 cards in the deck. That's a majority of the deck. I've already done 36 points of damage without them blocking, of course. But this is a great way to practice for your upcoming events this weekend. Alright, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe, check out our Patreon, and we'll see you in the next video. Fab Brothers out.